Spring is here, flowers are blooming, birds are singing, nature is waking up, and honestly, the vibes are great. It felt like nothing could possibly ruin this day. Right, so my subconscious had probably already blocked out the most difficult memories of building this helmet. This Iron Man project has spent the entire winter out on the cold balcony, which definitely wasn't ideal for it. Due to the storage conditions, or perhaps in spite of them, at least the large red parts had warped out of shape. However, I'd found out that water heated to about 50 degrees Celsius softens the resin just enough to let you reshape the parts. Once I got them reshaped, I secured the shell pieces with screws and nuts to make sure they'd actually stay put. At first, I worried the screws might look ugly, but they actually fit the aesthetic of the helmet surprisingly well. Next, it was time to tackle the electronics. The solder joints on the Arduino didn't have any kind of strain relief, so several wires had snapped off, and the ones still attached were barely holding on. I recorded hours of footage of the build, but most of it isn't very interesting to watch, so let's go through these tedious stages in fast forward. It would have made more sense to use proper connectors for all the wiring from the start, so I wouldn't have to keep redoing everything. Honestly, it's a miracle the electronics even worked at all with the previous setup.
In the silence of space, echoes ignite, beating in rhythm with celestial light. Galaxies embrace us in cosmic trance, guiding our journey with every chance. We're pushing the engines to the limit. We're maxing the antimatter flow. There's no time to visit planets. We thrust and flow, 'cause we're flying at the speed of light. Warping through wormholes, bending time's delight. The stars are shining brightly across the dark. With every leap, we leave another mark.
Once the electronics were fixed, I took apart most of the moving pieces and started reassembling them a bit more securely. I tried filling the screw holes with resin and curing it with a UV lamp, but that didn't turn out to be a great method. The UV light doesn't penetrate deep enough to cure the resin from the inside. Maybe if I'd used the UV light for a lot longer it might have cured the resin, but my patience just didn't stretch that far.
Footprints left in sands unknown, from frozen peaks to jungles thrown. They carried stories carved in bone of lands where seeds of wonder are sown. Through storms they would steer, their legacy clear. They sailed beyond the edge of fear, where the world was flat, or so they'd hear. Brave hearts with sails unfurled, ancient explorers of the world.
While working on the wiring, wires kept snapping off again and again, so I had to keep soldering them back as I went. I also used hot glue on the wires to keep them more secure.
They sailed beyond the edge of fear, where the world was flat, or so they'd hear. Brave hearts with sails unfurled, ancient explorers of the
Some of the silver parts were also warped, so I used warm water again to straighten them out. I continued the assembly and used glue in the screw holes this time to make sure everything stays tight. That's been a major issue with this helmet. The screws keep loosening up and then the parts wobble and don't fit right. This assembly phase isn't much different from the first video, so let's go through this and fast forward.
The blood within where stars would vanish just to think the parrots whispered at the brink of secrets lost in oceans dry. Treasure sleeps in silence and guarded by a ghostly hand. Islands hum in languages banned and time forgets where ships have land. A storm disguised as lullaby led me where the spirits lie. The moon was just a watching eye, and every truth began with a lie. The jungle sings in coded breath, each vine a tale, each leaf a death. The cave remembers every theft, but gives its gold to minds bereft.
At one point, I tried to use calipers to check the fit, but the tool started showing some Klingon, so I just had to eyeball it. Again, I used warm water to bend the parts into place. Then came the most difficult part. These specific pieces have taken up by far the most time and patience. They just refuse to sit properly. I've tried almost everything, and just when I think I've got it, something else goes crooked. I even 3D printed new versions of the problem parts, intending to mod them for a better fit, but in the end I decided to stick with the original ones. If I hadn't muted the audio, you'd be fluent in Finnish curse words by now.
Beneath the serpent skies, the wind repeats forgotten cries, and treasure hides in alibis. So I remain where legends fade, a prisoner of paths I made. The Caribbean and dreams cascade in shadows cast by light betrayed.
This part was seriously testing my sanity, and I honestly don't know if the fault lies with the parts or with me.
Sonic the Hedgehog racing like the wind. Speed is my power, nothing makes me bend.
Once I finally got this stage together, it was time to call it a night.
With his fists, climbing to the crest. Sonic and Shadow, the race will never end. Bold and fierce, their battles never bend.
The next day, I finally got to move on to something new, the LED eyes. I cut the flexible LED sheets to shape, secured them into the frames, and screwed them into place.
Shadow, black lightning, mystery and might. Ultimate life form, fearless in the night. Amy rose with hammer, heartburn.
Surprisingly enough, I didn't have much trouble with this step at all.
Sonic and Shadow, the race will never end. Bold and fierce, their battles never bend. Chaos emerald shine in the night. With each leap we blaze through the dark.
Finally, it was time for the finishing touches. The helmet was starting to look like a total bird's nest at this point, but it slowly started to clean up. I routed all the cables neatly using 3D printed clips, and again, everything went relatively smoothly.
Starlight, all the friends unite. Silver brings the future. Bending times expands. Blaze burns with flames. This cat won't back down. Sonic's crew united. We'll take the crown. Sonic and Shadow, the race will never end. Bold and fierce, their battles never bend. Chaos emeralds shine in the night. With each leap we blaze through the dark. Green hills on, gentle breeze blow. Sonic and his friends, adventures never slow.
If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and let me know what you think in the comments below.
Silver shell, red rage, a suit that shines. Glowing heart, it beats through the wires, through the lines. Helmet lifts, the world is watching. Hold your breath, man of steel, but he's dancing with death. Iron Man with a glowing plan. Helmet opens, he's a lightning brand. Silver red, he's a thunderous thread. Iron Man never breaks, never bends. Circuits hum.
I did the wiring a bit differently than in the instructions because my USB power bank is a different model. For now, the switch and the USB cable will stay on the outside of the helmet.
Sky is burning, he's the comet's trail. He's the hammer, the storm, the gale. Falling fast and rising higher. Fuel for the fight, his veins on fire. Metal wings, they cut the night. Iron Man, he's the battle's light. Iron Man with a glowing plan. Helmet opens, he's a lightning brand. Silver red, he's the thunder's thread.
Lastly, I just had to join the back shell and the faceplate. I joined the halves together using screws and nuts like before just to make sure they'd stay put. And there it was, a finished helmet. Or was it?
He answers the call. Silver and red, through the storm and sand, forever he'll be the Iron Man.
Okay, here's the situation. The helmet is assembled and working, at least at some level. What's still missing? Well, the power bank is too big. It doesn't fit inside the helmet. I need to find a small 5000 milliampere power bank. Secondly, the opening switch is outside the helmet. And I need to tidy up some of the wiring inside. Finally, as you can see, the parts still don't fit together perfectly. I have an idea for that, but I'll save it for the next video. That's all for now. See you in the next one.